We've all been there. Something you didn't plan for. It's your health, your spouse, your job, something that now stands in the way. As Mike Tyson reminds us, everyone has a plan till they get punched in the face. Anyone can make a plan, but very few can execute when the pressure's on. Well, imagine having a way to handle things that get in the way, even turn the obstacle into an opportunity. Welcome to A Call to Rise. I'm your host, Joel Landy, founder, entrepreneur, former naval officer, and this is where we help you build resilience, which is the ability to manage high levels of challenge and disruption while maintaining high levels of effectiveness and well-being. Because goals without setbacks are uncommon and big plans without resilience are just not happening. So if your job or life demands staying and playing at a high level, you're exactly where you need to be. So let's jump in. Hey, this is alarming, right? Men between 25 and 40 are the most likely demographic to report chronic loneliness, yet the least likely to seek help. And the CDC reports that men are dying. Suicide rates 4 times the rate of women. And social isolation is one of the strongest predictors of that outcome. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about isolation, but we're going to talk about, more importantly, getting into groups that help you thrive, right? But first, the question is, why do men struggle so much with reporting these things? Like, why is it so hard for men to talk about that? Why is it difficult when they feel like they're on the periphery of a friend group, they're just not plugged in? Why is it difficult for them to talk about it? And here's the challenge. Men live in hierarchies, right? And we see this all the time. If you go to the gym, you're going to be judged immediately on how much you can bench press or squat. It's just kind of it's the gym culture, right? You walk into the parking lot, people are wondering what kind of car you drive, right? It's a measurement. It's a metric, right? You go out to dinner and the waiter or other people are looking at what type of wristwatch you wear. And, we all know what that's like to sometimes have to pass first class. It's a judgment, right? And here's the paradox for men, right? The paradox for men is that men believe that if they expose themselves, they're liable, right? And they could potentially, the very thing that they need can push them, they believe, out of the pack. And again, when we talk about pack here, talk about the wolf pack. Wolves hunt more successfully in packs. They survive longer. They cover more ground. They actually raise stronger offspring. And so we talk about the wolf pack as a metaphor. These are small groups of strong men that are going places. And we create what they call a circle of trust. And this is a group of guys that you can tell anything to. They're there to sharpen you. They're there to challenge you. They want the best for you. But number one, they want to prevent you from drifting out of the group. Because good things don't happen to men that get on the periphery. It's the same thing with the wolf pack and that whole metaphor, right? So, but the idea of the wolf pack, and again, my value add to you is this idea that you belong to a strong group because there's a very strong need for you to belong to something. And, when you don't belong to something, sure, you can be on the periphery and do your own thing. And yeah, okay, he's the lone wolf and it kind of sounds sexy, but the reality is the lone wolf is a destructive force, man. It's just, okay, it's fine in short bursts, but look, you should be comfortable with being alone, but there's a difference between being alone and being lonely. Alone is something you do on your own, and lonely is something that you feel because you're not properly plugging into relationships, right? But we're talking about this idea of getting isolated. And for guys, they're grinding, they're working super hard, they're working long hours, they don't have time to ask people for help because you're on YouTube trying to figure out life, or maybe it's a chat GPT. But the reality is you're really avoiding honest conversations, right? And you're carrying burdens that you just don't need to carry, right? And so what is messing guys up is this paradox, right? The paradox, right? This confusion for a guy is, hey, I know I need other people. I know I need to get stronger. I know everybody has issues. But for men, and I'll be the first to admit this, when you come forward with a weakness, it's like they smell blood. And when they smell blood, they're going to gain advantage. And when they gain advantage, they're going to pounce, right? Because again, men live in hierarchies, and that's the unfortunate reality of the world. Now, if you're, for instance, a Christian man, you can untangle those hierarchies and you understand the power dynamics, and you understand the power of humility and the folly of pride. But there still is a paradox that men need to be in those kinds of relationships, but they don't get there. is they feel like that's going to destroy them, that's the paradox, right? And I'll never forget one thing a friend of mine said, Scott Green, years ago, Berlin, Germany, when he told me something about the power of relationships. He said, Joel, there are things about you that you will never learn except within a relationship with another human being. And I thought, wow, that's pretty powerful, right? And so growth is this risk where you've got to go into what I call the haunted house. What's the haunted house? The haunted house is when you, as a man, are willing to get really vulnerable with another man. The reason why it's a haunted house because it's scary. And men would rather run into a burning building and save a kitten than to tell another man, hey, this is something that's really weakening me. Men don't like that language, right? And so, guys, we got to overcome this paradox, right? And we're going to talk about later in the podcast. You got to redefine what strong really is, especially for this chapter in your life. And Steve Magnus, who wrote a book called Do Hard Things, Steve Magnus, Do Hard Things. No one said that to me in my ear. I'm home alone right now. But look, we got to redefine what strong is because, men, the statistics, 1 out of 7 men in America are alone. That's what the statistics are telling us. And a recent Gallup study that I just read this morning is telling us that guys that are not really plugged in at work with another strong male relationship, they underperform. They get involved in HR issues more often, and then ultimately they leave the company sooner. And so, so let's just talk about the reality of what we need to do, right? We need to push ourselves to be in great relationships. Jim Rohn tells us that you are the summation of the 5 closest people to you. And so I think every man owes it to himself to find a core group of iron sharpening men that are going to bring out the best. But hey, look, I'm here to remind you, dude, the pathway to your best is going to be going through the haunted house. It's going to be going through scary, at times, just conversations that you feel that are sometimes even embarrassing. But that's the pathway forward, right? As I spoke to my daughter a couple of weeks ago about love as a father having daughters, and as I'm waxing poetically, and I just said, hey, look, love is risky. You're about to take a big risk. And you risk being wounded because that's kind of what love does, right? But the real cost of not being vulnerable, and we're talking about men and vulnerability, is that guys will never have the kind of relationships that they're really hungering for. And they really want deep, meaningful relationships. Contrary to what some of you soul sisters think about men, men really do want deep relationships. They've not been parented on how to do that. Not giving them an out. I'm not saying they can't watch a couple of videos and read a couple of books, but I'm just saying a lot of men don't know what that looks like. And it took me age 30 to figure out what that really looked like before I could even take action on that. And so, I'm inviting you guys into a core group, into a sharpening group. You got to push past this paradox, right? Because if you come forward and expose yourself, they smell blood, you get scared, you run away, you don't grow, you stay outside, you don't have the kind of relationships you want, you don't hit your potential, you don't have the kind of career you want, right? It comes with taking that first step, and it's a small step. Let me tell you a great story about a man that took a small step, right? He's in my Call to Rise group. It's a resilience building course that we do, 10-month course. It's awesome. This particular guy, high achiever, very driven, committed. He's the guy that showed up every session. We met once a week for 10 months. Never missed a session, super committed, did the work, took notes, always had his hand up first, was always expressive. But he was carrying something for a long, long time that he was not open with, right? At first, he was, okay, I just got to come out this. He's like, okay, you guys know I'm a little bit overweight. But he had been carrying this for a long time that he felt really shameful because he was fit as a young man. And because he was fit, he was, of course, beating himself up and, how did I let myself go? And this is embarrassing, yada, 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 yada. And so in his moment, I listened. I told him that it was heroic and courageous to open up to the group. I can see that this is something that was really hurting him and holding him back. And I asked him a question. Now, before I tell you the question I asked him, here's what I didn't do. I didn't try to give him a motivational pep talk. I didn't try to tell him that, hey, I got a 90-day plan. Hey, we're gonna cut back on carbs and increase protein and throw some creatine. I didn't say any of that stuff. I just said, hey, I have a thought. Could I share it in front of the group? And he said, of course. And I said, I have a small challenge that I'd like to pose. And maybe I think you're up for it, but are you open to a small challenge? And he said, yeah, I can do that. I said, are you willing to look at this challenge or obstacle as an opportunity? And he said, yeah, He was actually, absolutely. I'm willing to change the way I think about it. So here's the challenge I give him. I said, okay, for 21 days, every morning when you get up, the first thing you do when your feet hit the ground, I want you to drop to the ground. I want you to do one perfect push-up. But you have to do it when you first get out of bed, and it's got to be one perfect push-up for 21 days, and you can't miss one day. If you're going to commit, I need you to commit the whole way. And of course, at first he was like laughing, like, well, that's not really that hard. And I said, that's fine. I said, but we're not talking about training your body right now, right? We're talking about a completely different thing. And that was the punchline. The punchline was he had to get disengaged from how guilty he felt about what he did to himself with his body, but he had to focus on the more important thing, right? All he needed to do was focus on building a healthy habit again. That's all it was. It was a small habit. You don't focus on the body weight. You don't focus on the image. You focus on the habit. And of course, you guys know how the story ends, or maybe you don't, but he lost 35 pounds. He's walking around now at work, and people from left and right are like, what did you do? What program did you go on? I was fired up that he talked about, it was the resilience course that he took that instigated this change, but it was really his ability to take on the challenge. It was his ability to do the work. And to be reminded, first of all, he reframed his problem, his challenge, and I helped him do it, right? Secondly, he did the work. But one small, courageous act repeatedly, and this whole thing went away. I mean, he had been bummed out for years. I'm not talking about this is a guy later in life. It's not a guy that just got out of college and, gained 35, 40 pounds. This guy's been carrying it for a long time. And now later in life, he's lost it, and he's completely just overjoyed, right? But one push-up, one good habit, and a lot of joy has come his way. What about you? Are you ready to take a one push-up challenge? It could sometimes start that small and lead to something really, really powerful. But it involves thinking differently about your problems and your challenges. And that's why I'm inviting you to get in these groups. So here's another perfect example. My wife just got back from Los Angeles. We've got 2 daughters, our older daughter's in Lexington, our younger daughter's in Los Angeles. And funny, she texts me, early, I'm looking for coffee, no coffee. I'm looking for cups, no cups. There's no towels. And she's like, I went into the refrigerator's bare. I said, well, yeah, of course. And she said, well, it's like I'm living in a dorm. I said, well, that's exactly. Because our daughter has not moved on from thinking that she lives like a college student, even though she's a young professional that makes a great salary. But herein is the challenge, right? It's called, our way of thinking is also our internal operating system. It's like an iPhone. And it's got to be continually updated and improved. And here's the challenge with us, right? You think about your friends, you think about the way you carry yourself, the different parts of your life, your job. There should be a progressive staircase going up because you're growing and stretching. And if you're not, it's not because you don't have great opportunities in life. It's because you're stuck in an old operating system that needs to be upgraded. And so I'm going to give you 6 quick ideas to help you get out of being stuck in your operating system. Number 1, first of all, you just got to get your pack. You got to name your pack right now. You have got to have a wolf pack, people that prevent you from drifting. Open up your phone after this, or do it right now, and look at the 3 people that you look to most to really lean on and just have real conversations. If you can't have 3 real conversations right now with 3 other people, you need to do that because you're not in a good place. You got to get 3 people in your life quickly, and there's a way to do it. It starts with getting 1 person. So get 1 person. That's your challenge for today. Number 2, schedule a hard conversation. Schedule that conversation that you've not wanted to have about the thing that's dogging you. Chances are it's not your body weight. It's probably your job. It's probably your relationship with women or the lack thereof. It's there. You got to have that conversation. Stop blaming other people and be in a conversation where other people are going to ask you good questions about what do you think the origin of this is. Stop complaining and start looking for solutions. If you want a hack to that, here's the hack. Go have the conversation. That's the hack. Number 3, make 1 ask this week. And here's what I mean by that. Ask specifically something of someone to help you with something. You need help with something. Trust me. If you look hard enough, you'll figure it out. There's something that you need help with. And if it's not this glaring thing, or maybe you think you can do it, it's just still good for you to develop that muscle. Develop the muscle of asking other people, hey, I was considering doing this. Now, I'm thinking about maybe doing it this way, but tell me your thoughts on that, because maybe I think I might need some help. Number 4, find an accountability source. the jury is in. For someone to create change in their life, there's like an 8% chance. If you have a plan, it goes up to 65%. If you have a plan and a specific plan with accountability, consistent accountability, it's like 95% that you'll change. Okay, let that sink in. Go get your accountability group. Number 5, redefine what strength looks like. I talked about that earlier. Steve Magnus does an amazing job. Do hard things, right? Strength is less about achieving and conquering, and it's more about how comfortable you are engaging in real honest conversation. And sometimes honest conversation, which should be mostly about you, sometimes it's about other people, but it's about the things that you need and the things that you're wrestling with. That's strength. It's not weakness. Again, guys, we got to change this paradox. But you're not going to change it unless you're exposed to new information. Unless you upgrade your iOS, you're still going to get stuck in the past. And this is why you're not hitting your stride yet. Number 6, you got to adopt some kind of a mantra. For us in A Call to Rise, the obstacle is the way. We teach people to turn obstacles into opportunities. And we do that by helping them name it and face it and learn from it. You got to name the culprit. You got to be specific on what the issue is. And when you do that, you embrace it, you learn, and then you can rise through it. You're not weak for needing your pack, and you're not soft for having the hard conversation. You're not compromising your manhood by building accountability into your life. You're choosing to perform at a higher level. You're up-leveling your life, your potential. Right? High-achieving men hide themselves to avoid the one thing that can actually unlock their next level. And that's an honest connection with people who want them to win, right? And those are hard relationships to find, but you can find them. I found them initially in a Christian context, and it was amazing. It was a short time, and it was a very powerful time. But when you find that group, it's a performance multiplier, right? And you begin to live by an ethos, and you begin to live by values. I live by 4 values. My first one is, wisdom. Wisdom, know the truth about what you need, right? And knowledge applied at the right time and the right way is wise. Courage is act on it regardless of fear, regardless of doubt. The third one is temperance, right? Whether I get praise or whether I get agitated, receive it in a balanced way. And then justice, treat other people with the dignity that they deserve. And so, all right, I told you my stories, some really cool stuff here. Initiate a conversation this week that costs you something. Put something on the line that make a step in a direction where it surprises you. Like, wow, move in a direction that you feel afraid for the right reason, and then do it anyway. And watch how good you feel at the end of the day. Okay, drop me a comment, and if you want to take another step, we have a free webinar coming up May 29th, 11 a.m. Look for a link down below. You'll see there's a link down there somewhere. And if you're really ready to roll big, we have an event that is coming in October, South Atlanta. It's called Smoke in Fire, and it's for guys who've been successful but are not fully clear about what their next chapter is, but they're itching to go all in again on something big. And so if that sounds like you, come out to Smoke in Fire. I'm going to be talking about that in some of the upcoming podcasts real soon. So thanks for joining us. Drop a comment. We'll see you for episode 10. If today's conversation challenged you, it's a real signal you need to do the work. It's no longer an option for you. So don't push that feeling away. It's reminding you of the cost of playing small. Success is easy when things go well, but resilience, that's cultivated when things go sideways. Make sure you subscribe, and if this episode brought you value, pass it on. It's how we grow the tribe. We'll be back, hopefully next week. Until then, I'll see you next time. Here is your call to rise. Rise up so that others can rise.